pathetic humans with their frail, tiny bodies seemed so weak, but somehow those primitive apes did the impossible and created an FTL drive in just 200 short years. On the Sheliak homeworld, lead scientist Oren scoffed as he reviewed data on the various inferior races his people had conquered and enslaved over the millennia. The Sheliak were mighty, with lifespans reaching 500 years. In comparison, humans lived and died in the blink of an eye. Oren presented his findings to the Sheliak Leadership Council. The humans are weak and primitive. I recommend we target their planet, Earth, next. They will be easy to conquer and enslave. The council members nodded their eye-stalked heads in agreement, mandibles clicking. Earth would be their next target. Meanwhile, on Earth, aerospace engineer Henry Bryant wiped sweat from his brow as he made a final adjustment to the prototype FTL drive in his lab. His heart raced. If this worked, it would propel humans into the stars, ensuring the survival of the species. 200 years ago, humans had only just begun to launch rudimentary chemical rockets into orbit. Now, the impossible was within reach. An FTL drive, the key to the cosmos. Henry powered on the drive, eyes wide as it hummed to life. A huge grin spread across his face. It worked. Henry immediately contacted world leaders to share the incredible news. As humans celebrated this defining moment, they had no idea that a massive Sheliak warfleet was jumping into the Sol system, armed to the teeth, ready to crush the human race and steal the FTL technology before humanity could resist. Long-range Sheliak sensors had detected the strange energy of the human FTL drive tests. Oren had ordered the invasion accelerated. The survival of the human race hung in the balance. Henry's hands shook as he raced to install the FTL drive into the last of the dozen ships. Sweat dripped down his face, stinging his eyes, but he ignored it. Every second counted. Mike worked beside him, his brow furrowed in concentration as he calibrated the drive's systems. "We're cutting it close," Mike said, his voice tight with tension. "The Sheliak will be here any minute." Henry nodded, his lips pursed. "We have to get these ships operational. It's our only chance." Overhead, the sky darkened as the Sheliak warships entered Earth's atmosphere. The ground trembled beneath their feet as the alien vessels opened fire on the planet's orbital defenses. Explosions lit up the sky, debris raining down on the city below. In the Sheliak command ship, Oren watched the destruction with a sense of unease. The humans were adapting too quickly, their technology advancing at an alarming rate. He turned to his weapons officer, his voice sharp with urgency. "Target their defense platforms. We must cripple their ability to resist." The Sheliak weapons fired, their advanced technology easily overwhelming the outdated human defenses. Platforms shattered and crumbled, unable to withstand the onslaught. Henry watched in horror as the platforms fell, his heart sinking. They were running out of time. Desperate, he turned to Mike, an idea forming in his mind. "We need to buy more time," he said, his voice filled with urgency. "What if we use the FTL-equipped ships to lure the Sheliak away from Earth? We can engage them in hit-and-run tactics, keep them occupied while we upgrade the rest of the fleet." Mike's eyes widened, the gravity of the suggestion sinking in. It was a dangerous plan, but it might be their only hope. He nodded, his voice filled with persistence. "I'll lead the diversionary force. You stay here and keep working on the upgrades." Henry clasped his friend's shoulder, his eyes filled with gratitude and fear. "Be careful out there." Mike grinned, a reckless glint in his eye. "Don't worry about me. Just make sure those upgrades are ready when we need them." As Mike and his team took off in the FTL-equipped ships, Henry raced back to his lab. He needed help, and he knew just where to find it. He called Dr. Samuel Pearson, his old mentor, and explained the situation. Dr. Pearson listened intently, his mind already racing with possibilities. "I've been working on a new weapon," he said, his voice filled with excitement. "A high-energy cannon that could penetrate their shields. It's still in the prototype stage, but with your help, we might be able to get it operational." Henry felt a surge of hope. With Dr. Pearson's weapon and the FTL drives, they might stand a chance. As they worked tirelessly to integrate the new cannon into the fleet, Mike and his team engaged the Sheliak in a series of daring skirmishes. The human ships darted in and out of range, using their superior speed and maneuverability to outflank the slower Sheliak vessels. But the Sheliak adapted quickly, and the human losses began to mount. On the Sheliak homeworld, Orin's superiors grew impatient. They demanded results, their voices filled with barely contained rage. Orin felt the pressure mounting, his own doubts gnawing at him. He had underestimated the humans, and now his people were paying the price. Back on Earth, Henry and Dr. Pearson worked feverishly, racing against the clock. They calibrated the energy cannon, tweaking its settings until it hummed with power. As they stood back, admiring their handiwork, Henry knew that they had created something truly formidable. But even as they celebrated their breakthrough, Mike's voice crackled over the comm system, filled with static and desperation. "Henry, we can't hold them off much longer. We're down to half strength and the Sheliak just keep coming. We need those upgrades now." Henry felt a chill run down his spine. They were out of time. He turned to Earth's leadership, his voice filled with urgency. "We need to launch an all-out offensive against the Sheliak fleet," he said. "We have to catch them off guard. Hit them with everything we've got. It's our only chance." There was a moment of hesitation, the weight of the decision hanging heavy in the air. Then, with a nod, the order was given. The human fleet mobilized, the newly upgraded ships taking to the skies. They flew in formation, the energy cannons glowing with barely contained power. Henry watched them go, his heart pounding in his chest. This was it, the moment of truth. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, and the outcome of this battle would determine the course of history. As the ships closed in on the Sheliak fleet, Henry could only pray that their desperate gamble would pay off. As the human fleet engaged the Sheliak forces, Mike Thompson led his strike team into the heart of the alien dreadnought. The narrow corridors echoed with the sound of gunfire and alien screeches as they fought their way forward. "Push through! We need to reach that reactor!" Mike shouted over the din of battle. The team advanced, their weapons blazing. Sheliak warriors fell before them, but not without cost. 2 of Mike's men went down, their bodies crumpling to the floor. "Damn it," Mike cursed, his face contorted with rage and grief. "Keep moving." Outside, Henry Bryant's voice crackled over the comms. "We're hitting them with everything we've got, Mike. How much longer?" "Almost there," Mike responded, his breath coming in ragged gasps. "Just hold them off a little longer." The team finally burst into the reactor chamber, only to find chaos. Warning lights flashed, and a deafening alarm blared. "Shit," Mike muttered, surveying the scene. "It's going critical. Johnson, Roberts, get the others out of here. The rest of you, with me." As half the team reluctantly retreated, Mike and his volunteers got to work. They pulled out makeshift explosive charges, rigging them around the reactor's shielding. Suddenly, a holographic image flickered to life. Orin's alien face sneered at them. "Your efforts are futile, humans. You cannot hope to—" Mike cut him off. "Save your breath, you overgrown squid. We're taking this ship down, and there's nothing you can do about it." As Orin's image vanished, Mike turned to his team. "Ready?" They nodded grimly. "Now!" The charges detonated, and for a moment, it seemed like the world had ended. The shielding cracked, and the humans opened fire on the exposed core. Energy arced wildly around them as they poured round after round into the reactor. Suddenly, the alarm stopped. The reactor's glow dimmed. "We did it," Mike breathed, hardly daring to believe it. But their victory was short-lived. The ship rocked violently as Orin unleashed a furious barrage on the human fleet. "Mike, we're hit!" Henry's voice came through, filled with static. "I'm going to ram this bastard. Get out of there!" Mike's eyes widened. "Everyone, move! Now!" They sprinted through the corridors, the ship shuddering around them. They reached their shuttle just as a massive impact sent them sprawling. As they took off, Mike looked back to see the Sheliak flagship torn apart by explosions. The shockwave hit them, sending their small craft tumbling through space. When they finally regained control, Earth lay before them. The remaining Sheliak ships were in full retreat, leaving only destruction in their wake. On the Sheliak command ship, Orin stood alone on the bridge. His calls for aid went unanswered, his superiors abandoning him to his fate. With a snarl of defiance, Orin grabbed the controls. "If I am to die, I'll take as many of you primitives with me as I can." He aimed his crippled vessel at Earth and pushed the engines to their limit. The planet's surface grew larger in his view screen as he plummeted towards his final act of vengeance. The acrid stench of burning wreckage filled the air as Mike Thompson stepped out of the shuttle. His eyes swept across the devastated landscape, taking in the twisted metal and smoldering debris that rained down from the sky. In the distance, he heard the unmistakable sound of cheering. Mike's boots crunched on the scorched earth as he made his way towards the crowd. People rushed past him, faces alight with joy and relief. "We did it!" they shouted. "We beat those alien bastards!" But Mike couldn't share in their jubilation. His chest felt hollow, his mind replaying the final moments aboard the Sheliak flagship. Henry's voice echoed in his ears, resolute even in the face of certain death. Days later, Mike stood before a sea of grieving faces. The weight of the world pressed down on his shoulders as he unveiled the monument, a towering obelisk of black granite. His fingers traced the names etched into its surface, each one a life cut short. "We gather here today," Mike began, his voice carrying across the hushed crowd, "to honor those who gave everything so that we might live." He paused, swallowing hard. "Their sacrifice will not be forgotten." His eyes found Dr. Pearson in the crowd, the old scientist's face a mask of grief. Mike's heart ached for the man who had lost not just a student, but a friend. As the ceremony concluded, Mike retreated to the makeshift command center. He hunched over a computer terminal, sifting through the data recovered from the Sheliak ship. His blood ran cold as he decrypted file after file, each one revealing a truth more terrifying than the last. "Jesus," he breathed, running a hand through his hair. "They're just the beginning." Mike's mind raced. How could he tell a world still reeling from one invasion that there were more coming, that the Sheliak were merely pawns in a much larger game? He closed his eyes, remembering Henry's unwavering belief in humanity's potential. With renewed purpose, Mike began to plan. He would carry on Henry's work, pushing humanity further into the stars than ever before. In a secure facility deep beneath the Earth's surface, Mike stood before a team of Earth's brightest minds. "We've recovered Sheliak technology far beyond our current capabilities," he explained, gesturing to the alien artifacts spread out before them. "Our job is to understand it, reverse engineer it, and improve upon it." He met each of their gazes in turn. "We don't have much time. There are threats out there we can't even begin to comprehend. We need to be ready." As the scientists set to work, Mike stepped away, gazing out a reinforced window at the stars above. The vastness of space no longer filled him with wonder, but with a stubborn persistence. Humanity had survived its first test, but the real challenges lay ahead. Mike clenched his fists, his face hardened. They would be ready. They had to be. The alternative was unthinkable.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.